Oh my God.
Okay. Let your aunts and uncles and everybody know that you're in school so they don't call you, because evidently that's important today. I hope your uncle does call you, Jeremiah. Do you even have a phone? You do? Yeah. All right. So, on that note, today we are going to classify triangles. There are two things that you need to know about classifying triangles. There are two different ways to classify them. The first way is by their sides. The second way is by their angles. Before we go to that, we're going to have a little bit of practice. This is just like the homework that you guys, or the lesson that we did on Thursday. We're going to name each polygon and we're going to determine if it is regular or not regular. Okay, on your whiteboards, answer these 4 questions. Remember, it says name each polygon. It does not ask you to name the subcategory. It asks you to name each polygon. Yes, it is. So, number 1 is a quadrilateral. And it is not regular. Number 2. Bridget, what's number 2? Oaxaca, what's number 2?
Not regular.
A regular what?
I can't see it.
Okay, did you write it?
No, I don't. Pentagon. Like that. Did I do this one? I did. Isn't the triangle called what's it called? Scaling. Oh, I thought it was
Okay, this is a scaling triangle, but that's not what we're working on right now. All right, so number 3. Number 3, let's see, Jackson.
Let me do it.
What? It is a triangle. And what else? Not regular. Right. None of the sides are equal, so it's not regular. And our last one, number 4. I'm looking for somebody that can raise their hand like an adult. I mean, the me, call Jeremiah. No. Or the back there with Alex. No. All right, Marissa.
Number 4 is an octagon. It's regular.
Octagon. And it is regular because all the sides are the same, right? Very good. All right. Moving on. Okay. So, what is the same and what is different about triangles? So, all triangles have to have what?
3 sides. 3 sides.
3 sides. Along with 3 sides, they have to have 3 angles. So when we're looking at our triangles, we always know that they're going to have 3 sides and they're going to have 3 angles. Now, do those 3 sides always have to be the same?
No.
No. Do the 3 angles always have to be the same?
Yes. Oh, no, because
No. This is what you need to know about a triangle, is that the angles A plus B plus C are going to equal 180 degrees. So that means that angle A, angle B, and angle C
Are equal.
have to equal 180. Okay? Now, we can have large angles in the triangle. So this angle is larger than 190, or sorry, larger than 90 degrees. So this is what's known as obtuse. And then we can have triangles that have itty bitty angles. Which, what kind of angles are the smaller? What? Cuties? Acute. But yes. Alright. So, compare and contrast the triangles shown. So this triangle has a 90 degree angle. Do either of these have 90 degree angles? No. These two sides are equal. Do either of these have two sides equal?
Yes.
Well, 3 has all 3 sides that are equal, huh?
Yes.
This angle, is it bigger or smaller than 90 degrees?
Bigger.
Bigger. So this is obtuse, right? Now, this is right. And does this triangle have any angles that are bigger than 90?
Yes.
Number 3?
No.
Does number 3 have any angles that are bigger than 90?
No.
No, so that's acute. Okay? Oh, I misspelled it. That's awesome. Okay, so that's an acute angle. So, we just classified all these triangles based on their angles. These are the angle names. Okay? You can also classify them based on their sides. So when we go through, this one has 2 sides that are equal. Does anybody know the name of a triangle that has 2 sides that are equal?
Yeah. No. Isosceles.
Isosceles. Yes, way to use your book, Jeremiah. So an isosceles triangle is it SCEL? Yeah. I'm having one of those days today, guys. All of a sudden I'm going to misspell everything. So it's ELESE. That's isosceles. Okay? Now, are any of these sides on number 2 equal or congruent? Any of the sides on triangle number 2 congruent?
Nope.
No. So what kind of triangle is that?
Scalene.
Scalene. None of the sides, none of your sides are congruent. It's scalene. Now, number 3.
Equilateral.
Yes. It's equilateral. All the sides are the same. Okay? Now, you can have a right scalene, you can't have a right equilateral. Okay? All of your equilateral triangles have to be acute. Does anybody know why? Yes, sir. Because the angles all have to be the same too. If your sides are all the same length, your angles are all the same. Which means when you have 3 numbers that have to add up to 180 degrees, and all 3 numbers have to be the same, what sides are the angles always going to be in an equilateral triangle? Does anybody know?
Equal.
They have to be equal, but all three of the angles are going to be the same, but all 3 angles add up to 180 degrees. Yes, ma'am. Each angle is going to be 60 degrees. It doesn't matter the length of the sides. Okay? If all 3 sides are the same length, the angles are always going to be 60 degrees in an equilateral triangle. Well, if they're always 60 degrees, what kind of triangle is an equilateral triangle always going to be? It's written right there.
It's the one that starts with
Equilateral.
No, an equilateral triangle. That's the name of its sides.
Acute.
Every equilateral triangle will be acute because all the angles equal what again, Ella? 60 degrees. So all the angles will always be smaller than 90. Okay. So now that we talked about what the names are going to be, we're going to, without looking at triangles, we're going to discuss if we had a triangle like this, what would it be? Okay. So right now we're going to look at a triangle with side lengths of 4, 4, and 4.
It's the equilateral.
Equilateral. Remember, hey, we're talking about classifying it by its sides right now. Okay. So this is going to be an equilateral. Number 2.
Isosceles.
2 acute angles and 1 obtuse angle. You don't know that all the sides are different, do you? Does it tell you the length of all the sides? Does it tell you the length? Does it tell you that 2 sides are the same?
Yes.
No, it tells you that you have 2 acute angles.
Oh, it's a scaling. It's a scaling.
You don't know that for sure either. Scalene is based on its sides. What do we know? We know the measurement of the angles, right? So what kind of a triangle has 2 acute angles and 1 obtuse angle? I'll give you a hint. You're going to have to turn the page.
Oh.
It's an acute angle, triangle. It's a right triangle.
Right triangle.
Listen. As soon as a triangle has 1 obtuse angle, it is an obtuse triangle.
That's easy.
Okay? Side lengths of 3, 3, and 5. What kind of triangle is this? It has side lengths of 3,
Isosceles.
3.
Isosceles.
It's isosceles. You're trying to give me an angle classification, Oaxaca, when it's only telling us about the sides. Okay? You bored?
Right triangle.
No.
Oh, it's right.
What is it?
Right triangle. Yeah, I just said that because it says on the example 1 by
Bridget, tell me, what is it?
A right triangle.
Tell me the next one, Bridget. We have side lengths of 6, 7, and 9. Tell me what it is. See, Bridget was too busy drawing to hear me say that when we talk about sides, it's on the page before the angles. I feel like I'm hosting Jeopardy. Do 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 do. Pretty soon the buzzer's gonna sound. It's gonna go like, ah. Come on. What is it? There's only 3 choices.
The scaling triangle.
It is scalene. None of them are the same. Anderson, what's the last one?
Scaling.
What's it? What is it? Oh, how cute. Okay. 3 acute angles. It's an acute triangle. Okay. So that's all. Those are the 6 names that we're going to be working with. Okay. Now, on what we're working on, you're going to be asked to classify the triangles based on its angles or based on its sides, and you're going to be asked to draw a couple. So you're going to need a ruler. If it asks you to draw a right triangle, make sure you put the little square, because the little square will tell us for sure that it's supposed to be 90 degrees. Okay?
There's only one, Ricky.
Now, let's talk about the Hammond family. Yes, the Hammond family. See, the Hammond family traveled from Columbus, Ohio to Dallas, Texas, and then to Atlanta, Georgia, before returning home. The distance of each flight is shown on a map. Find the number of congruent sides. So if we look at our map, we can see that they flew 924 miles to Columbus, Ohio. Then they flew 573 miles to Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia people. Their last flight took them back home to Dallas, Texas. How far did they travel on their last flight?
They traveled. Oh, they made a triangle.
How many miles did they travel on their last flight? From Atlanta, Georgia to Dallas, Texas. How far did they travel? I didn't ask what kind of triangle it was. 729 miles.
You know what actually that was Dallas, Texas.
Now it says how many of the sides are congruent? How many of our sides are congruent? 0. None of them are the same length. So since 0 sides are congruent, what kind of triangle would that make it there, Cooper? What? Yes. So that's a scalene triangle. Okay? Now, they should have flew to St. Louis this weekend, because in St. Louis, do you know what was going on in St. Louis?
No.
You do?
It was March Madness.
See?
It was in March, dude.
Not in St. Louis, bud.
No, I know that's one. That's what everyone calls it. Oh, instead of basketball?
They call it March Madness.
That's what I said.
You said madness.
No, I said madness.
Yeah. Did you watch any of the matches?
Yeah, I watched that grandma TV. One of the dudes at the one day.
One of the dudes at the what?
Indiana Jones. Why would
Oh yeah,
the dude that pinned that Ohio dude?
yeah, at 184s, right? Yeah, he hit the whip afterwards.
You said it was
No. All right.
Ridiculous.
Number 2, triangles form the sides of the Khafre pyramid in Egypt. Determine the number of acute, obtuse, or right angles in the triangle. So, what we need to know is whether or not they're larger than 90 degrees. So we're going to look at each angle. What did you just say?
They're all the same.
They're all the same.
They're all the same? Well, I don't know if they're identically the same.
Yeah, because
They
the
do look
bottom
pretty
is
close to all
black.
being the same. So what do we know about triangles? Well, let's look. We're going to look at this first. Number 1. Is that greater or less than 90 degrees?
Less than?
Less. Number 2 here. Less. Number 3.
Less.
So how many acute angles do we have?
3.
So we have 3 acute angles. How many obtuse angles do we have? And how many right angles? 0. So what kind of a triangle is it?
Equilateral.
We're only looking at the angles. Remember, equilateral names the triangle based on its sides. It's a acute triangle.
It's so cute about it.
Did you watch Yeah, I can't remember his name.
John.
The guy from Ohio State that was going for his 4th title. Yeah, Logan Stieber. Yeah.
He shouldn't have had it.
He shouldn't? Why?
He should have lost to Jordan Oliver.
Where? When?
It was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He had 2, but his dead one was because he had his dad against the guy.
I'm impressed.
Oh, I just learned it.
I hate to disagree with you, but I do. I think it was close, but I think that he got 4th.
Mr. Medal, are you going to be the coach of track Wednesday?
Yes. Okay. So here we go. We have 2 guided practice ones. Number 1, it says we're going to classify the angle based on its sides. They want to know how many of the sides are congruent, and then the triangle is a what? And then we're going to classify the triangle based on its angles. Okay? So we're going to look at all 3 angles, and we're going to decide what the triangle is. So our first one. How many of the sides are congruent? Gibby, how many sides are congruent? You would have known that if you weren't talking to Angel, huh? So maybe one of you needs to move. So we have 2 congruent sides. Now, because there are 2 congruent sides, Ricky, what kind of triangle is it?
Triangle?
Okay, you're classifying it based on its angles. I asked you to classify it based on its sides.
It's a...
What does scalene say? Definition of scalene is right on the bottom underneath the picture.
No size.
No sides are congruent. Is that what we have here?
Oh, I know.
It is an isosceles triangle. Now we're going to classify the triangle based on its angles. Okay. So, this doesn't ask us, but we need to know how many acute angles,
3.
how many right angles,
0.
and obtuse. So, we have no obtuse angles, no right angles, and how many acute? 3. Okay, so the triangle is a what? It's an acute.
Why is it called acute?
Because that's what angles smaller than 90 degrees are called.
Oh.
They're called acute. Okay. Now, you guys have about 20 minutes to work on pages 917 and 918. Make sure that you classify the triangles right based on their sides or their angles. You hear me, Ricky? Gibby, do you understand? Okay, now just as a refresher, Gibby, there are 3 types of triangles that are classified based on their sides. What are those 3 types of triangles?
It's in the book.
Okay, at the top of where it says acute, right, and obtuse, what does it say? It says key concept, classify triangles by what? So I didn't ask for you to classify it by angles, did I? So we're looking for sides. Yes, Mr. Oaxaca. What? Equilateral? Scalene. So we have isosceles, equilateral, and scalene. Those are the three that you're going to use based on its sides. Based on the angles, as Gibby just told us, you're going to go acute, right, and obtuse. Obtuse is larger than 90 degrees. Acute is less than 90 degrees. How many obtuse angles do you need for a triangle to be an obtuse triangle? How many obtuse angles does a triangle have to have in order to be considered an obtuse triangle?
1.
Ms. Roskovsky, how many obtuse angles does a triangle need to have in order to be considered an obtuse triangle? Doesn't it say right there? Look at the page that you're looking at. It needs 1. Okay? Mr. Williamson, how many acute angles does a triangle need to have in order to be considered an acute triangle?
Wait, what?
How many acute angles does a triangle need to have in order to be considered an acute triangle? 3. Mr. Jackson, how many 90-degree angles does a triangle need to have in order to be considered a right triangle? 3 90-degree angles?
Maybe
4 90-degree angles. How many angles does a triangle have? I don't know what's worse, the fact that your buddy just tried to trick you or the fact that you let him.
It's 1.
1 right triangle. 1 right angle in order to be a right triangle. Okay? All right. Get started. That was wrong.
That was hilarious. We need to draw a right triangle.
Yeah, maybe you should look at the example in the book.
We have a square.
Oh,
Draw 4 90-degree angles.
I would hope it's 90 degrees. Bruh. If you're standard, I do.
The ruler's over there about on top of the air conditioner.